Hi, everybody. I'm Sod,
And I'm Punk.
and I'm definitely
Definitely
not
somewhat not a Popufur. Oh,
somewhat not. Is that a double negative? No, it's
somewhat
a
not.
partial negative. Somewhat not, definitely not yet. Okay, either way, I'm not a
Yes.
scientific math person. I just know we're definitely not Poppy first. But that's the name of the game over here. This is the podcast where every single episode we invite someone on to have us walk them through their journey into the furry fandom. Given that I'm so new at it, Punk has been at this for over a decade and a half, and everyone's entry point is unique, and we love hearing those stories. And this week is rather special for us. For those who've been following along, I don't think Punk and I ever designed this podcast to be something that's like the history keeper or anything else like that. There's a lot of other places and wonderful people that are doing that, but the thing is that we are always vibe-based people. There's always people that we know are compelling and interesting. And I truly cannot think of anyone more compelling than our guest that we have today. They are an artist. They are a designer. They have one of the slickest gator sonas that you've seen possibly in all of existence, truth be told. And most critically, they are a self-appointed historian as well as the creator and curator of what we think is one of the most vital pieces of furry history contained, which is the Virtual Furry Museum within VR Chat. It is a truly astonishing place. Literally, before we recorded this, I took someone there for the first time, and it was absolutely spectacular as you expected. Please, if you could put your paws together, please welcome to the pod, Sotalo. Hello, friend.
Jazz
That's
hands.
you are announcing me every time I'm doing a tour. You got to come to the museum now
Done.
and please give your hands together. Yes, and then you just
Can we
do
get
all
air
that.
horns? Burr,
Oh
burr,
yeah.
burr.
Yeah, we
That's
need a soundboard.
fantastic.
That's what we need to do. Oh my goodness, friend, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for agreeing and being here. It is an absolute delight
Yeah,
to see you.
it's good to see you too. And Punky, holy shit, it's been so long.
I know. I've been busy.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not a popufur, but he does have a fully booked schedule, which is something that we could say.
I
Um,
think that's the definition of poppy fur, isn't it? It's just someone who has no time because you're too busy doing furry things. That's
I
Yeah.
basically
know.
what it is.
I think I
One can
told this
argue
in
too much time too.
Oh God, yeah, that too. I think this came up in our Nova Llama episode when we were talking about the band Whispers, and he has that line of that song: "If you have a bad day, I'm only a telegram message away." And I'm like, oh my God, I hate that level of specificity, but it is so fucking true that
Hmm.
you will always message someone and be left on red on Telegram. It's just you're not a furry until you're there. It's a true experience. Before we dive into everything, because Sotolo, I want to get to know your story. I want to get to know your journey into the fandom. And I know you've spoken about it in interviews and whatnot. I'm so curious about it, but we should probably be a little bit transparent here. Before we get into the details of the Virtual Furry Museum, it's actually such a cool place. It's a curated experience for so many artists and people in the fandom to have their art and their stories preserved. But uh, first off, there's an exhibit dedicated to one of our guests that we've had on the pod before, our dear and wonderful friend Dingo Roo. But also, there is an artist, there's a photo that exists in your museum taken by this one weird little guy I know, who is also one of my closest friends in the fandom. His name is punkydmouse, sitting across from me.
Stop.
How did you two get in contact with each other?
What do you want me to go, or do you
Oh,
want to go
sure.
with
Yeah, well,
that,
I
Punky?
want to
Yeah,
hear it
you
from you. I want
go,
to get the
cause
actual truth.
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
cause
I
I.
mean, it's the truth is what the truth is. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
who says it.
Hmm.
So Punky, was it that I remember very distinctly there was a certain world that we were both in. It was like a very small backyard or something. We had a really long conversation there. It was really cool. I think it
Yeah.
was through one of the earlier like VR chat groups. I think it was Rugged Beards groups or one of
I
those.
think so because I remember there's Angel and
Yeah,
Toffee and Wooden Nickel and a bunch of others there. That was like really early, like 2022 or something.
that was a while ago. That was,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I'm saying it like it was forever ago. That's what it feels like. But
Hmm.
it was only like, 3, 4 years. And then I was looking for some art for the museum, and I think you said that you made like VR chat photography.
Hmm.
And I looked through your entire gallery, and there were like two pieces that I thought were really cool. And then I picked the one that I felt would really best fit the display. Yeah, that's pretty much that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go like into the whole VRC awards thing, but there is a bit of a segue there.
Hmm. Uh,
Mm.
I would say because there's some people who might be listening to this who may not know who anything about the Virtual Furry Museum. Like, there's furries I've mentioned this to who like may not know directly. Like, I think if we get to
Yeah.
the origins first, I think we can do that and then work our way to that point, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Unless you're
Sure.
raring to go and you want to jump on right now.
The Virtual Furry Museum is the absolute greatest place for furries to go learn about art, history, and culture.
Hmm.
I've spent the last 3 years basically working as an anthropologist,
Hmm.
gathering thousands of furry stories and sharing all that information in the museum. But that's not all. I met Silas Sable, and he pushed very, very hard in order to make sure that historical furry art was there, and it was my decision to cover the history.
Hmm.
So together, we made sure to preserve the early fandom history, and it ended up becoming, in his words, the two best places to learn furry history were Ash Coyote's documentary and this museum.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people
100%.
mistaken that for I am nothing more than a historian, but usually what I do, I talk with a lot of furries about their experiences, and I've been building up the subculture exhibit and trying to explain how our different minority groups are helping different people because there's so many furries in the fandom. There's so many different minorities. There's so many different groups,
Hmm.
and it's like no one has ever cataloged how furry is helping all of those individual different types of people.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's been my big thing.
Well, and it's the kind of thing where, as we mentioned at the start of this, we don't want this podcast to necessarily be the place to go to learn about furry history, but it is the kind of thing where because this fandom is so broad, because furry fandom, as has been noted multiple times over, isn't just one specific thing, because it is so many things under an umbrella, you get to learn and read and just find out so much about so many different aspects so profoundly, and the fact that there is now something close to a more definitive resource as to what that history is incredible. So, if you don't mind, before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the museum, I kind of have to ask, and this is a very roundabout way to get to the theme of this whole podcast. What ultimately, I kind of want to ask how you got into a furry because at the end of the day, the real question is what made you care so much about the fandom and the history of the fandom in the first place?
Well, I mean, that's two different questions there. What brought
That is
me to the
true.
fandom and what made me care so much about the history are two very different things.
Well, let's start with the first one.
Oh gosh. Uh,
You got
As
this,
much
sweetie.
you got this,
I'm
baby.
I'm okay. Well, I like paws.
Hmm.
No, I mean I've always loved animals.
Yeah.
I've always
Uh-huh.
loved anther
Straightforward.
animals as long as I've lived. I had when I was a tiny itty bitty little baby, I had like a little frog stuffed plushie. When I grew up,
Hmm.
I had like a mini pillow thing, and then I read Berenstain Bears books all the way through kindergarten and third grade. I was really enamored with any anthro cartoon on TV. If it was a cartoon, I watched it.
Hmm.
And it just it never had like a definitive starting point or ending point. It's never it's just it's who I am.
Hmm.
And the what is it called? I think it was the Berenstain Bears that I really kind of realized, I for some reason I don't like stories with humans in them. I like stories with the cartoon animals, and I still remember what went on in my mind. We had this
Mm.
whole library open to us. We could read any book that we wanted, and I was looking at these like what were they? The Newbery
The
Medal
Newbery Kids
winning books,
Awards, yeah, for
and
like
it was
outstanding
like
children's
every
literature. Yeah.
single one of those books, someone dies. and all of the covers are just like, someone being really depressed. And,
Uh-huh.
you know, I like what went on in my mind was I don't want to be depressed. If I'm going to spend my time reading an entire book. I don't want to spend my time wallowing in misery. So,
100%.
and then I saw the Berenstain Bears, and it was like this really nice book series about a family, and they're just trying to live their life and make it work. And
Uh-huh.
there's conflict, but they're just it's a slice of life.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of life I wanted to live. Like, what if I could just be a furry living life? And
Yeah.
so I read all of them. Guys,
So I get
do you know what all of them means?
how so is
What?
it I think last I heard it's like 180 or is it even more than that?
For years, I read only Berenstain Bears books. I read all of them. Like the
Oh.
librarians had to buy more because
Oh my God.
because I that was the only thing I really wanted to read, and they had to like figure out how to trade books and share books and everything, and they looked through the catalog and they said you read all of them. Read something else, please.
For the
We have a
anything.
whole
Asimov.
library. Read something.
Anything.
And
Yeah.
then guess what was a stupid book that I tried to read to get me out of it? It was Hatchet.
Oh my
Oh.
So I go from
Oh.
Berenstain Bears, nice, lovely book, to all of a
Yeah.
sudden someone's like within the first few pages stranded on an island and then
Hmm.
struggling to survive the entire way through. And my teacher was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, this is a good book. What,
You're like, is
what's good
it?
about it? What what part of this do I want in my life right now?"
Right. Well, and am I mistaken? They briefly did a Berenstain Bears animated series, if memory serves correct.
The funny thing is, I didn't really care too much for the animated show. I really loved the books
Hmm.
at
They
the
got it
time.
wrong. They got it wrong
No, they
when they were doing
no
the
no
adaptation.
no they didn't get it wrong. I just when I was watching TV, that was something different, and
Hmm.
that was I don't know. It was just that I love Dragon Tales. I did
Hmm.
like Little Bear, which is very similar. It's
Hmm.
I loved all sorts of things, but
Bear in a big blue
the
house.
the
Love that
the
show.
no, I don't know if that was my time or if I had that channel. We
It's
didn't
okay.
we didn't grow up with every channel. We had like Nickelodeon, and I remember when Cartoon Network was brand new,
Hmm.
and that was you had
That.
Blockbuster. There
Hmm.
was the internet, like
Hmm.
dial up, you know.
Early
Um,
days, modems, and
Good
you can't get on
old
the phone with
dial up.
someone else.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
they
AOL
didn't,
900 free minutes. That was my furry awakening. The AOL 900 minutes CD. I'm kidding. Not really.
and we had movie theaters. Like so, it
Hmm.
was not. But when I read a book, I wanted to read a book with a world that I wanted to live in.
Hmm.
And the world of Berenstain Bears is a world I wanted to live in. Yeah. But I think we're spending quite a lot of time on that.
I mean,
Like,
that's okay though. Like, I mean, again, if it's about furry origins, that is legitimate. And to be real clear, Berenstain Bears, you could write it off as like, oh, it's a book about a family getting along, but like, correct me if I'm wrong, it explored so many different themes outside of just like, like I had difficulty at school or like lying or some of that stuff. It dealt with like even heavier themes of just like death and like grieving and just so many other like actual topics in what was seemingly just a quote unquote a kid's book series. Am I right?
it had a way of taking those topics and making it very playable because
Hmm.
the overall theme of the entire series was, um, this sort of harmony that it keeps coming back to. Like you never have like you're not going to have Berenstain Bears or you know lost and stranded on an island and they're suffering and dying and then they have to decide which one to eat. Uh, like it was just a world that you felt there was a certain level of safety and comfort in. And
Hmm.
that was something that I think was really important to me because my upbringing was not, uh, it didn't feel
That.
that safe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I my father was not the best person. My mother loved me dearly, absolutely tried, but it was a quite a bitter divorce. It was a rather Was very like verbally, emotionally abusive. He wanted me to be a
Hmm.
man, and
Yeah.
I was just never living up to his idea of what a man should be.
Hmm.
So then going to Berenstain Bears and just seeing like, life could be easier. Life could just uh, could have this sort of harmony where people work together and work through their problems was a lot better than my dad flat out not doing that. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that was just one thing of many. Uh, but moving on from that, because I didn't stay 5 years old, 8 years old forever. Um,
Correct. Yes.
yeah, I when I got a little older, I liked Paws.
Uh-huh.
I developed certain feelings.
Hmm.
I like feet, and if I can be like 100% honest, yeah, I had a foot fetish when I was 10, and I was looking up feet pics online when I was
Hmm.
10,
Hmm.
and like that's when I stumbled into the fandom, and I saw that there was Paws and thing, and I was like, oh, hang on, this is mixing everything that I love in one. And so I saw like a lot of the old paw and tickle artists, really, really Big Bang, and
Hmm.
Alphonse Lavallee, whose
Hmm.
art was absolutely phenomenal, like an amazing French artist. And like that actually helped me more than I think people realize. It gave me an escape. It gave me a relief that I didn't have otherwise. And it really helped me. But I felt bad about it for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't accept myself for that for decades. I mean, I was
Decades.
decades. I was in the Greek Orthodox Church. I was raised
Hmm.
by, one half of my family is uh, Middle Eastern, the other half is Mediterranean. So
Hmm.
if you know anything about, and they were like Middle Eastern Christian,
Hmm.
uh, very, 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 very kind of conservative in mindset, even though they vote Democratic.
Yeah, like I mean,
Mm.
you can vote. Again, you could be, fiscally conservative, policy liberal or whatever. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that how you act outwardly doesn't mean it's going to change the dynamics of a home life, much less dynamics that have been established and calcified over time. Like some of that stuff just can't shake off that easy, no matter how much you outwardly express faith in other people or
Grow up,
policies.
get
Yeah.
married, have babies.
Uh-huh.
Like the
Hmm.
Greek, or if you want any idea what my family was like, my big fat Greek wedding. I had a very large, very, very large extended family, uh, and through my father, aunt, and uncle, uh, a massive family over in Florida. It's a point of contention because my father did kick me out when I was in my college years. Um, Ironically enough, it was because of the foot fetish thing. I told him that I had a foot fetish, and his first question after that was it a man or a woman's foot? And
Mm.
like, I admitted that it was, it was like someone like me. It was a man's. And then he like locked himself in his room for a month. He wouldn't go to
Oh, wow.
church. We wouldn't, and then, things were just different. And then he just suddenly kicks me out at the same time that he was sleeping with two women. So that was great. That was a great way to start my life.
Yeah.
Um, but
Mm.
no, my mom picked it up from there, and it gets complicated. My actual life just is really not a great story to go down. But it didn't provide me the acceptance that I needed.
Hmm.
So the fandom was always there even before I was too afraid to talk with people. Growing up in grade school, there were just really nasty bullies against me. I was a really nice, kind, shy kid, and I tried to be nice to everyone. But it also meant that I was a little bit more quiet, and the bullies would just constantly hound me for that.
Hmm.
And I really didn't start to open up more until around like in high school. I had an amazing teacher, Mr. Wormington, and he taught us like computers. He said that he learned animation. I actually attended the FBLA meetings, and uh, we got to have like video game tournaments actually as part of the
Hmm.
club. We filled that computer lab with 80 people all playing Smash Brothers. It was so much
Hell yeah.
fun.
Hell yeah. Hell
Like
yeah.
he was the like he didn't even need a microphone. He would just talk. Was sitting right in front of him, and he was on like the very end of the room. There were 80 people. Can you imagine like 80 teenagers just shouting over each other? Uh,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
actually.
his
Yeah.
That's the best
voice,
part.
his
Yeah.
voice was like double that to the back of the room. I had to close my ears. He was like that for like a solid minute, telling everyone what to do and where to go.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I
Well, it
had
did.
cool
Go ahead.
people in my life. I had cool teachers. Yeah, I had a really, really cool writing teacher, which was so funny. All of my writing classes were in the honors classes didn't do so good, but then suddenly in the college class, getting top remarks,
Hmm.
like 100%, multiple times, over and over again. She pinned like she says, I have too much of your stuff pinned up on the wall. Uh, and she really wanted me to be an author. But there were a lot of different things that kind of came together. Like high school was really interesting for me because at the same time there were struggles socially, there were problems, but I did make friends, and I
Hmm.
did manage to work through it, even though I did have and suffer some problems, especially in middle school, ideating suicide and depression and dealing with problems at home.
Hmm.
The fandom had always been there for me. But I was always terrified of what other people would think because my dad was constantly railing on me for that. He was calling me a sissy. He was saying other people don't do this. People don't, they're going to look at this, they're going to think this, they're going to do that. And it was like someone choking the life out of you. You cannot move, you cannot do anything, you cannot live without him yelling at you for who you are as a person, and you feel like you were born wrong. But he doesn't like admit that. So you keep thinking there's something you can do to change it, and there never was.
Hmm.
So a lot of stuff happened. I ended up my I was with my mom and stepdad. Stepdad was alcoholic, and then got in a fight with us. I just kind of because he was drunk, he never hit me. I kind of
Hmm.
just had my foot against him, protecting between. He was trying to reach both me and my mother, and then I did like just a stand to push him away from the door. We were holding that door closed, my mom and I, but he was constantly
Hmm.
grabbing it, trying to open it. That was terrifying. I knocked him back. He almost fell down, and then decided not to fight me anymore. But that was that. And then my mom and I were just on our own. She threw out her back as work. She was 15 years food and nutrition services lady. Those
Hmm.
people work very hard, making
Yeah.
like, hundreds, thousands of meals in the morning at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning,
Hmm.
before kids go in to get
Mm.
breakfast. And she was a very, very sweet person. Uh, Not to me, but to everyone else. Uh, she would pay for the kids' meals if they didn't have money. She hated turning kids away if they didn't have money. Uh, People absolutely loved working with her, and she was so kind to everyone. She put so much work in and effort with everything that she did. And then uh, she contracted stage 4 pancreatic cancer um, in 20, I think it was 2018 or 2019. And then she was about to pass away in 2019. The doctors told her, like, I can't, like, I couldn't be home to take care of her. I was working my job. So she
Hmm.
had to go back to, my stepfather, and he was taking care of her. And we had one final conversation. And on her deathbed, I was told by the hospice people, Tidewell Hospice, like they need some comfort, some help to move on. So just
Hmm.
let them know that you'll be okay. And I knew for my mom, the number one concern she had was that I was going to be alone
Hmm.
because she saw my struggles in school. She saw my struggles uh, trying to connect with other people. And it turned out the struggles weren't necessarily me. It was just the people I was with were not accepting. And I told her, like, don't worry. I have friends. I have friends online and we get together and I'll make it through. And
Hmm.
then she passed away the next morning. And then shortly after that, guess what happened? It was 2019 in November. Guess what happened in March
Hmm.
2020?
Something I can't remember what
Something.
specifically, but yeah, some global pandemic of some sort, if I'm not mistaken.
COVID happened, and suddenly I was getting recommended furry videos on YouTube. YouTube knew me better than I knew myself.
Hmm.
And like I went from being so scared what other people would think to I promised my mom that like it was her dying basically her dying wish to see that I would be able to make friends and I would have a good life for myself. And it just happened. I saw a video with Fluke Husky and Jonah Scott. Like there were so many different YouTubers that were really interesting
Hmm.
at the time. Majira Strawberry,
Mhm.
uh, Odin Wolf. I think Glitch was on at that time. There was Ace of Hearts Fox, Beta Ada Delota, but uh, Fluke Husky had a video with what's his name? Jonah Scott, the voice of Beastars, and I was like, "Oh fuck it, I'm a furry."
I
Was it
mean,
something about that video that did the trigger, or?
Dringa Scott does that to people.
Well, like Jonah Scott was not a furry per se, but he was like a very respected actor. And then for him to be
Yeah.
working with furries, it's just like, okay, they're like this is people in this fandom. It is a possibility for me to be in this fandom and for other people to like me while I'm in this fandom. Because again,
Hmm.
Hmm.
my dad trained in me like you have to care so much about what other people think, and it was really the wrong words to live by. I
Hmm.
joined the fandom. I met so many wonderful people. It was a little shaky at first, but I
Hmm.
eventually found my groups and the people that I like to be with. And it became pretty crazy from there. Uh, like, I had a Fermi at my house and made a barbecue for everyone, and it was amazing. It was like this grilled chicken on a barbecue. It was a salad, and I had a cinnamon and cumin and nutmeg and allspice and garlic, and it smelled like Christmas. Uh, and drizzled with honey after it came off of the barbecue. So it was good.
Yeah, as it should
Yeah,
be. You know, if you don't mind, if you mind interjecting ever real quickly, your
yeah.
story that you have, I genuinely think is actually, well, obviously, there's a lot of sadness and tragedy that happen inside of it,
Hmm.
but your story is actually very similar to so many other furries too. And again, it's the fandom is the part of the reason why we do this pod is everyone has unique entry points to it, but also as we talk to people, there is so much correlation in things. And I've talked to a lot of people who have fathers that are always like, you need to be more manly, you need to be, set in this specific gender role of something like that, and just dealing with that. Or even for the kink aspect of that to kind of come in together of just like having a foot fetish be so prominent in your life as it is for me too, to then like have that be an impulse and also something that you work through, realize you are stuck with for the rest of your life, and then have to navigate that well of shame that comes with it at the same time. Like, it's difficult, but
Yeah,
also Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't like kink is so much of a taboo. And
Hmm.
because it's a taboo, people don't talk about it and people don't acknowledge and respect it as an aspect of humanity.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we all have a sex drive. That is not
Hmm.
something that like that is what's human about us. You know, if we didn't have a sex drive, people wouldn't want to have sex, and then we wouldn't exist. 50 years from now, everyone would be gone. So we have this thing. Everyone has this thing, and then people are just in all sorts of different mindsets throughout the years, throughout different cultures and uh, different religions and et cetera, on how to consider that. Like how do we treat people about that?
Hmm.
Uh, and then the more you learn, the more stories you hear, you start to realize, oh, sex is just a thing that people have, and it's not something to judge or criticize. It just is. Like I think I
Yeah.
there was something I said to someone not too long ago. It's like there's no good. Oh, this was in relation to trans. Like there's no good or bad. It just is.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and the sooner I think more people start to understand, comprehend, and realize that, the sooner this crazy world that we live in can start to heal.
Absolutely. But it is also the kind of thing where I will just briefly iterate that the things that you feel ashamed of, the things that you're always worried about, the things that, like, very specifically having explicit kink that sometimes is just so defining to your life, or being a furry. Like, the amount of streamers that I encounter that always run into the question of, like, how do I come out to my parents as furry? And, I think some of the question is, well, first off, do they deserve to know? Like, yeah, I know there's always that impulse to
Hmm.
tell them, but, they are the people. So if they're responsible for your housing and you're worried about it, maybe hold off. But like, that is still your story to tell. These things that for so many people are somewhat shameful or somewhat taboo things, when you get to that point in your life, when you embrace them, when you accept them as not things to be ashamed of, but things to be proud of, things to be defining, like that is the turning point for so many. And for you, it took you so long to come out as a furry. I remember, like, I've been in these things. I haven't been across my full year yet, but I still denied it for freaking months. Even as I was working on my music project, even as I was commissioning characters, like even like it's still everyone's process is different, and I'm so fascinated by it. And again, kind of the reason for this pod. The one thing about you, though, Sotalo, is that not everyone who becomes a furry immediately decides to get invested in the history of it. Punk has. I
Mhm.
have. I think it's great, but that's not commonplace with everyone. If you don't mind, what is the thing that after you had kind of the aha moment, once you're like, fuck it, I am a furry, god damn it, what is the thing that kind of led you to go a little bit further down the path of history towards it?
There's a few different things for that. So, like, first of all, I found out that my entire life had been a lie, basically. Everything I was told, that's not how life is. That's not how people are. Um, and that's not like a healthy way to live. Just
Right.
constantly feeling ashamed of yourself for who you are and things that are neurologically different about you that isn't going to change. Like you have this problem. The best thing to do about it is to deal with it and work with it going forward so that it doesn't become a detriment.
Hmm.
And part of that process means removing people from your life who
Hmm.
don't like agree with that because then they will constantly be in the you're supposed to be this person, but I'm not that person. But if I yell at you enough, maybe you'll become that person. You
Hmm.
did it for 20 years and it didn't change anything. All it did was make me very, very upset and like really mentally fucked up and royally fucked up doing that to a child. Um, and like honestly, I hate to say it like this, but I think if there was an organization that took gay children away from unaccepting parents and put them into just households that accept them and love them for who they are, that would solve a lot of problems. That would immediately solve so many problems. Because unfortunately, as much as you try, and I do try, to teach and preach acceptance to people. You can show the studies and, uh, you know, the 40% rate of suicide rate of LGBTQ youth, that it's cut in half in households where children are accepted by their parents, but then the majority of parents don't accept their children. So if a child came and asked me, like, do I come out to my parents as furry, as whatever? No, because more often than not, they're going to hate you.
Hmm.
Although it
It's a
might not
taboo.
change anything, they might already
Hmm.
Right.
hate you.
Some people have missed whatever ideas they have about it in their head, and so to try and tell them about that, like, I'm a part of this culture, and all they hear is rumors, whispers, stereotypes, caricatures.
Yep.
I actually did talk with someone's parents about that. Actually, they heard from a coworker that they didn't know anything about furries, and then they asked the coworker, and the coworker said, "Oh, baby fur is the worst thing." And I had a friend who lived near me that
Hmm.
said, he is a baby fur, but he
Hmm.
hides it from his parents. He's in several communities. He's helping run communities and bring people together, and like really, really good guy. But like his parents are religious and this and that. Okay. Uh, I go over, I meet them, they get to know me a little bit, and then I see them watching TV, and they're kind of bored of whatever they're watching on TV. And I told them, so do you know like who I am, what I do? And I told them I'm actually the creator and curator of the Virtual Furry Museum. So if you have a
Hmm.
question about furries, I'm the best person in the world to ask.
Hmm.
That's how I basically introduced myself because I want them to start talking about things.
Mm.
Right.
Um, and then it took them a while to kind of comprehend that because they just kind of like, all of a sudden you have an expert living in like next to you that can answer questions.
Hmm.
And we had a conversation for 4 hours. I
Yeah.
told them the community brings so many different people who are LGBTQ neurodivergent together. A lot of people said for being in the fandom saved their life. A lot of it has to do with acceptance and community. That's what most people love about this fandom.
Hmm.
And of course, there are subcultures in it. All of
Hmm.
these subcultures are helping people cope through trauma or relieve stress or just change their headspace from being an adult with stresses, fears, and worries into something that's a little bit better. And then I may have said something along the lines of, oh, like you heard that from a coworker? And I'm like, where did they get that from? And then I told them like, oh, that's really stupid. Like I would really want to talk with this person because if they go around telling people that, they're actually probably going to harm people or maybe even send some people to their grave.
Yeah.
And that made a significant change in them. And then but they were constantly worried and in fear. And it was just, and I had to tell them, like, just hang on. I'm still trying to answer the thing you said before. And now you're coming up with new things. So they went from not talking about it to having so many questions, I couldn't keep up with them. And then
Mhm.
I was able to actually like comment about how the fandom helped so many different people, and I gave explanations as to how and why. Of course, I was very lucky to have done a lot of research in the baby fur community,
Mhm.
like a year and a half's worth just working on the exhibit. But I've known baby furs for a lot longer, and like I was able to say quite a lot of good things.
Mhm.
So I think like you can I really do feel like knowledge dies in the dark. I feel like when
Mhm.
we talk about these things, frankly, openly, honestly, we can get to a place of actual, genuine understanding. And the genuine reality is never going to be as bad as the fear inside of someone's head. Uh,
Mhm.
the fears that they had built up had just come crumbling down. If there is someone who wants to like tell their parents about being a furry, well, first of all, have a backup plan if it goes
Mhm.
south, because a lot, like more often than not, parents don't accept their kids. Time does march forward and then things can change. But for the most part, it's going to be a contentious issue. And the advent of the internet and, extremely good research, Trevor Foundation in the 1990s, and the research they're still doing today, uh, can all be undone by one orange man who speaks very loudly about things he doesn't care for or understand,
Hmm.
without care for who he is affecting or hurting. And your parents may not be listening to the truth. They may be listening to someone like that, and they're going to have the wrong ideas. They're going to be filled with fear and worries, or like in my case, the Greek Orthodox Church made a letter posted on their website, an official condemnation against homosexuality, calling us all degenerates. And I could not accept that. I felt God
Oh,
leave the building. Um, it
that,
no longer felt like church. It felt like everyone was trying to pick on everyone. I wasn't really being respected in there either. I was doing the chores no one wanted to do. The one thing I was very good at, reading the epistle, which everyone absolutely loved when I read the epistle, uh, they wouldn't let me do anymore. So yeah, the that no longer felt like a home for me. And it never did
understand.
truly feel like a home for like the last year or so. I was like, I'm here for God and no one else. And
Would
then
you?
other people
Sorry.
kept making it worse for me.
You say that the fandom has saved so many people's lives directly. Would you say that it saved yours?
Absolutely.
Unquestionably.
Unquestionably.
Directly. Yeah.
When I was back in middle school, I was like not making friends. I didn't think that friendship was good, because I had some friends do some things that, they borrowed a game from me and then never returned it. And this is
Stuff like
someone who
that.
had been to my house, who like we had a sleepover, and who I trusted. And then he ended up like, and then it turned out he did it because other kids dared him to do it.
Of course.
And so
Mm,
he didn't care about being my friend anymore. He just wanted to get in with other people that he thought would treat him better. And guess what? They didn't. They just
Hmm.
mm,
wanted to get at me. So that kind of bullshit happens, and it makes me lose trust in a lot of people. And that was, I think, my lowest point when I had the bullies attacking me, when I had lost my friend, and it made me want to give up on friendship and socializing forever. But then I saw Paco's artwork. And his artwork, if you've never seen it before, always shows like there's usually two characters. There's usually someone who knows what they're doing and they're showing their friend something. Their friend doesn't really know what's
Hmm.
going on. And he's showing like discovery. He's showing friendship. He's showing learning. He's showing a shared experience. He's showing a very idyllic portrayal of childhood where people are helping each other and lifting each other up. And that was like really beautiful. It made me think of friendship and socializing in a way that I hadn't before. Like I had assumed that uh, you just talk with your friend and then you play video games and then uh, you just do whatever, go play basketball outside and
Hmm.
have fun and that's it. But I didn't really see like a deeper meaning to it, a deeper side to it. And if it wasn't for that and My Little Pony Friendship is Magic in college,
Hmm.
I
Legendary.
I wouldn't have really tried to give friendship that second chance, and socializing that chance. And then plus together with my mother passing away and wanting to see me make friends and wanting to see me, uh, you know, in a better situation than I was,
Hmm.
like better than what she could have provided, then it was really all the makings for success, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but
I,
so the fandom, without the fandom, I wouldn't have like any of my friends. I am a
mhm.
33-year-old living in Florida. People of this age usually they as soon as they graduate, they leave to another state to go to college. They find work in another state and they just stay the hell out of Florida.
Hmm.
Um, or there is no good work here. It's very hard to find good work here, extremely difficult. And people leave for better opportunities in bigger cities or bigger places. Here I am stuck where I am. And I was able, thankfully, to have a job for quite a few, almost a decade. Uh, but the the furry fandom is giving me right now even the resources to live.
Yeah.
Through the museum, I'm getting payment through it, and so it's all of the above. I'm getting my the acceptance through the fandom of me not being straight, and
Hmm.
whatever kinks I have, like the person that I am, there are people who see that in me and love me for it. So many people love me for it. There's the like financially supporting me as an artist, supporting me as a curator of the museum, just supporting me just because I'm a good person and people want to see me succeed. Uh,
Hmm.
and then it gives me a reason to keep going every single day because
Yeah.
there's always like more people that I can reach, more people that I can help, more people that I can hopefully inspire. And whatever is going on in their lives. Like I didn't get the acceptance that I needed when I was young. Now's my opportunity to give other people the acceptance that they deserve, that they didn't receive from their parents or their lousier friends or their bullies or their peers growing up. Or even within the fandom, we have divisions sometimes where people can't just get along. Uh,
Hmm.
then I was kind of that light for a lot of people. So
If
now how I became like the guy who made the museum and
Mhm.
did all that. Well, you know, I was looking for inspiration and I loved making, well, for like our college was awful, guys. The experience was so horrifyingly difficult. And it is, you don't go to college to draw for fun. Like they break you. It was basically
This
boot
boot
camp for
camp.
artists.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. And it was notoriously difficult for the number of students it failed. Yeah, they definitely failed me by like 3 points. He rated one project as a zero because it was turned in 10 minutes late. I gave it to my friend to turn it in for me because I had to sleep. I had worked all through the night to get it done, and then he just gave us flat out zero for it.
Hmm.
I was so ticked off. And then because of that, it would have cost like $30,000 to attend for another year. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that.
Right.
Hmm.
So, uh, like college was not great, and there were some biased teachers over there that tried to teach us out of drawing furries and into drawing realistic humans.
Hmm.
And I was so
Not about that life.
Yeah.
I'm not about that. No, because humans were the people who were harassing me my whole life.
Hmm. I don't want to draw them. Right.
No.
Hmm.
And then like, the furries, the anthro characters, the TV shows that I loved growing up, those were the kind of guys, the kind of people that I wanted to be more like. The the heroes. Not even the heroes, just the people who are just living life and being kind to one another. That was a lesson somewhere along the way that the whole world seemed to have collectively lost. I never lost that. What? So yeah, oh yeah. So I was looking for inspiration because I didn't get it from school. I didn't get it from, uh, I obviously I was seeing a lot of furry art anyways, but
Hmm.
I wanted inspiration, and my cousin wanted to see me in New York, so I hopped on a plane to see him in New York, and I said I want to go to a museum,
Hmm.
and we went to MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, There was so much wonderful art all over the walls. There were some beautiful paintings by Pablo Picasso. There was some amazing like video art and projectors projecting art on the floor, and you make your own
Hmm.
shadows over it, and it was really interactive and really fun. Like really crazy Moir patterns from like 3D spinning, just kind of mobiles, and it was a really incredible experience. But there were no animals. There were like three, four animals in the whole museum. I was counting. I was taking pictures of them whenever I found them. It was hardly ever. And the
Mm.
only animal piece that looked even remotely like a sculpture or like something that a furry would make. The only thing that looked anthropomorphic was a piece by Jeff Koons, and it was
Incredible.
the Pink Panther grabbing the buttocks of a mermaid. And
As you
it's
do,
like,
you know.
that's
Yeah.
not the fandom.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a museum that was our voice.
Hmm.
Entire museum of modern art did not have anything that came close to representing the furry fandom.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, and there
and
really hasn't been one prior, if I'm not mistaken. Like there may be some archives, but I'm not sure if there was anything truly is immediately accessible in the physical world that had that.
there is a library where you can look through the drawings and writings of Fred Patton,
Hmm.
apparently, but it's not exactly accessible. You kind of have to go there. And then, uh, like the Prancing Skill Terror has an amazing collection, but that collection is again in a physical location. You can go on the website and you can look through and peruse through the art, but that's more of an archive. I wanted to make a museum.
Hmm.
I wanted a museum that had so much beautiful furry art and because I people in my college were artists and I was an artist too, and I thought very highly of art, and I loved furry stuff, but whenever like furry things came up, it was always detested. And even when digital art was brought up, it was detested. And I was like, guys, this is art too. I mean, people work hard to make these things. And I know it's not the same thing as an oil painting made in the 1700s, but people put their love and care and effort into this. And I saw that. Like, Paco's art saved my life. I wasn't going to just ignore that or treat it with
Hmm.
anything short of the respect that it deserves.
Hmm.
So I wanted to make a museum for the longest time. I wanted to do that. And one of my friends said, you know, Sotalo, you keep talking about making this museum. Why don't you just make it?
Be
I
the change
was
you want to see in the world, right?
I was looking for someone else to make the thing that I wanted to see. And I realized like this was the thing that I wanted more than anything else. I knew it would be a lot of time, a lot of work, but I went ahead and did it. It was just supposed to be pretty pictures. I got within a short order of like I think 2 months or so. I got so many different artists to okay and contribute to the project. There were some displays that took a lot longer. And then toward the end of it, Silas came along. There were
Hmm.
several people. There's one person I don't speak with anymore, and I'm not sure if he's still in the fandom. Uh, but then who wanted, she said, "Oh, I know the guy who made the fandom." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." Uh, and then there was another friend, Lima Bean, who was like, "Oh, I know the guy who made the fandom." And I'm like, "Oh my God, people, the museum's done. It's done.
Hmm.
It's done. I spent months working on this. It's done. If we're gonna put history in here now, it's gonna take more time." And
Hmm.
against my wishes, they invited Chenga Husky, and they were like, "I'm sorry, I already invited him." But then Chenga saw the world. He absolutely loved it and said, "Silas absolutely needs to be here." And then he brought Silas in.
It's
And
incredible.
like that was fated. I didn't want to be the guy to present uh, his story to the world. It it was fated,
Hmm.
and he spent half an hour arguing with me to get historical furry art in there. He
Hmm.
he saw all the contemporary art, and he's like, "Wow, this place is incredible! But where's all the historical furry art?" And
Dag nabbit.
yeah, and then that argument, it was like we were both exhausted by the end of it. He was like really impassioned about this. And then something clicked in my head, like, I have the person who made the fandom in front of me. Like it was pretty clear. Like I think before that I might have asked the question like, why does he care so much? Um, but it turned out that everything was true. And then he started recalling stories and sharing things, and I'm like, oh my God, you are the guy.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, yes, and I said you'll get a table, and then I told him like he gave me so much art and so much things to look at, and then I asked him so many questions about the history, and we would go on for like 8 hours on Discord, in text messages, and then we would have a 7 or 8 hour Discord phone call after that. We would just be nonstop talking about furries. Eventually, he was like, "You're really asking for a lot." And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna get the history of the fandom here." And he realized what that meant. Like,
Hmm.
so what do you want to tell? What do you want to capture? And I was like, all of it. And uh, he said, "Okay, you're the person that I'm going to see now. You're like my top priority, basically."
Hmm.
And over hundreds of hours of communications, he shared with me so many stories, so many things that had happened. He led me to all the right directions. He sent me the art, the pictures, so much that he'd done in his life, so much of what inspired him. And we would just talk, even if it wasn't about, you know, the history, it was about what we felt about the fandom. And a lot of that actually happened after the exhibit was already made. We worked on the exhibit, we made it, and then he was constantly bringing people in to show them the history. And I launched the world. We had like 20, 30, 40 people at once. Every single time Silas showed up, the only thing that needs to happen, I'm in the world, Silas is in the world, we're both on green, the world fills up immediately. And then we
Hmm.
would just share the stories. And then the next day we would do it again. And the next day we would do it again. And it was like that for a while, until it seemed like we had shared the story to practically everyone that we knew. Uh,
That's incredible.
I love
Truly.
him.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, you've created it's, I mean, we've talked so much about your story and history. That is what we wanted in this podcast, but I don't think Punk and I can properly state what the power of the museum is because, quite frankly,
Hmm.
we do our best to try and keep this podcast to an hour. We could talk 2, 3 more hours about the museum and what it into it. In fact, you actually have. You've actually done interviews with other places where they've met you in VR in the museum, and you've walked through every single exhibit. How you've talked about everything from some of the creators of the modern VR fandoms, how certain profile photos were so well rendered that they became kind of the passive profile photo of so many young furries because they didn't have the means to try and get their own. Like, there's so many things about this, about ancient history, about the early days of the fandom from the 1970s and 80s. There's so many things to get into. But it's also the kind of thing where, as much as we could spend all of our time talking about the joys and powers of the fandom, the other thing I want to say is that for so many people, and VR, as we like to keep noting to people, you don't have to have a headset to do it. It is
Hmm.
an exhibit, it is a museum, it is something that is best experienced by itself more than anything else. Nothing I use to describe it will replace the feeling of someone going into it, of taking in these incredibly well designed exhibits, of seeing so many different artists from so many different textures and mediums and opacities, and then at some point going into the basement and seeing the memorials and seeing so many other aspects to it. Like we could take up this whole time, but most critically, your story and your passion for it is the driving force of it. And I think that when we have our after hours episode, we're going to talk about so many other aspects of it too. But uh, I did want to briefly pause for a quick second and say, Punk, is there anything that you want to ask Satalo specifically?
Not that I can think of. It's just a insane story. Like as I said, I've just been sitting here listening, and
Hmm.
yeah, like not gonna lie, shed a tear or two because I was like, damn, no, I can
If
feel the
we had
passion.
Yeah.
So,
if we had more time, like if you want me to delve into my past, I could share stories that would absolutely crush you. And the stories going ahead of that would also absolutely crush you.
But
But I
the
mean,
thing.
if you want to have a part two to this, because I really think like there's just too much. It's too much to describe.
100%. No, absolutely. And like it's the tough thing too, where it's like I feel definitely a little odd of just like, well, we try and keep it an hour as best as we can at the same time, but like we could talk about this for so long. I guess I would actually go ahead. We do have a little thing that we do with our guests at the very end, just a very
mm,
quick speed round that we do. But number one, for those who are
Okay.
listening, we always tend to do an after hours episode, so there will be more conversation about that. But for the sake of this interview, and if you don't mind getting into just a little bit more of it, because there is so much of the museum that is focused around him, how did you get to know Mark?
Well, I think I already explained like how we met. And then it
Hmm.
was really the love of furry that drew us together, and we were sharing everything that we loved about the fandom, how it made us feel. I
Hmm.
think our personalities were quite similar.
Mm.
Like he had this kind of innate desire to bring people together, and I like I had this innate care and love for people, and it was more or less the same thing. We both had similar feelings growing up about furry. Like we've always been furry. It's not
Hmm.
something that we just stumbled into. It was lifelong, and uh, there were obviously differences, of course, like
Hmm.
in our upbringing, but there was enough differences, I think, that made it interesting that we actually learned from each other. Although I say that, but I think I remembered him saying that he didn't really feel like he um I'm sorry, thinking
You're fine.
about him too much.
For those who don't know, Mark was helped with creating basically the modern iteration of the fandom, all the way going back to the Cartoon and Fantasy Organization. Way back in the day, in the back rooms of sci-fi cons, it was called Funny Animals ever before it was called Furry. And it was basically people sharing their love of initially just animated videos and whatnot, and soon it evolved into what it is. This is someone who is such a significant figure, and if you have seen the fandom, Ash Coyote's rather incredible documentary about it there, he features prominently in it. It is incredible. And for
Mhm.
anyone who's visiting the museum, not to spoil anything about it, I will just say that the friendship that you two have curated together is noted. How you share as part of it some of the Discord conversations that you have, and how his passing was fairly recent. We're recording this podcast at the start of 2026, and his passing was also early in 2024. So this is still, in many ways, still fresh to a lot of us, and it is nothing short of impactful. So to that end is the thing where I keep asking about it because I think it's the thing where not every furry that you meet in this fandom is necessarily someone who is adept at that history. Some people will see the funny VR streamers and whatnot, and they will go ahead and just have that be part of it and kind of explore, and they'll go to a con and suit or party or whatever their situation is. Like, there's no one specific way that you have to go about the fandom, but there are the people that truly care about it and care about the people that have come before it. So for that end, that's part of the reason why we wanted to have you here because you say that like there's no one who knows the fandom better than me. And listen, I've met with you. I've been in the museum. I see how incredibly well detailed and researched it is. I understand that. There's something special about this history because so many of the struggles that people are going through right now have been struggles that people have been through before. And the thing that will always make me so happy about this fandom is that for me, I love anthropomorphic animals. They're fantastic and great. The people behind this fandom are what ultimately pulled me into because there might be a shared love of this one thing, of this one creation, but to meet the people that I've met in my short time here that have truly changed and impacted my life, I'm sure it's very similar for you. How the fact that some of your best friends are furries, people that you've met online, some people you may not have even met in person or even in VR for that matter, that is impactful stuff. I noted early on in this podcast a question I keep asking was, do friendships in this fandom work faster than they do in other, real life? And the answer basically it kind of answered itself, which is yes. Because if you're giving someone the persona, the identity of a furry, even if it's not a public facing thing, you're allowing them to be their most authentic self. And when people are not putting on their work face or not putting on their internet troll face or whatever it might be, when people are trying to be the most authentic iterations of themselves, that time frame is ramped up. Friendships happen so much faster. I didn't know fucking Punk before the start of goddamn last year, and let me tell you, he is one of my favorite people. He's in the circle. He's was such a good guy, and so everything that you say to me, Sotalo, right now, all I can say is that I get it and I hear you, and I say I get it, even though I know there is an iceberg's more of what you have to do and say. But
Hmm.
you sharing your story is so meaningful and impactful to me and to us and our listeners. And before anything, let me just say thank you for sharing that story too, because none of that stuff, recreating it, going through any of that stuff, be it with your family, be it with Mark, be it with any other aspect of it, none of that is easy. And so for anything, number one, I just wanted to say I appreciate you and I thank you for that. Truly,
Thank you so much. Sorry, my pump
truly.
is going off. Wah.
You are perfectly fine. Here's here's
Yeah.
here's here
Diabetes.
here's It's okay. Here's what I recommend we do. I have a quick little thing, a much more lighthearted thing before we end
Mm.
this podcast. We're going to close things down, and then we're going to have the much more free-form after hours conversation after this, real quick. But I just want to make sure that I get in my things before anything else. So, with that said, are you ready for a very short, rapid-fire round of questions, Satalo? Is that okay?
I'll give it my best shot. I
Okay.
don't know how
These are
short I
very
can be, but
These are very. I listen. People talking a lot. I know
in the
nothing
dawn of
about that
time,
life. So question number one. This might be the hardest one or one of all. A quick answer. It just first thing that comes to your mind. Pause or
Mhm.
Moz?
Pause.
Okay. I had to.
Simple.
I had to. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Question number two. Is there a, this is tough, a best Berenstain Bears book?
I don't remember. Like it was so long ago. I
Mhm.
read them all, but I don't recall all of them.
Okay.
Um, Mostly I just
Tangent.
love being in the universe. I'm sorry. I can't
No, you're
recall a story off the top of my head.
okay.
Well,
Tangent.
guess you just
Best
have to read
Berenstain.
them all again.
I guess we gotta have a book
Damn.
club. We're gonna do it after this. Tangent. Is there a best Berenstain Bears character?
Oh, well, I think hmm,
I'm asking the tough questions. We do.
that's I can't just pick one because like
Hmm.
obviously you'd think, oh, well, the kid, right? The boy.
Hmm.
But he had kind of a bit of an attitude against his sister, and I didn't really like that. And anytime he acted that
What a
way, I'm like,
monster.
that's not me.
Unbelievable.
Uh, and then, like, the mom was usually the voice of reason, but then
Hmm.
every now and then she would get angry and yell at people, and it's like, or she would say certain things, and I'm like, that's not me.
Hmm.
I
Well,
definitely
it's
don't, I don't like really identify with the dad, and I I hope I'm not mixing up between like Arthur and Berenstain Bears, but like the sister
right.
in Arthur was awful.
Hmm.
She was
She
like the
was.
DW.
worst sister
No one
ever.
liked her.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, no, I some combination between the kid and the mom.
And the postman. I remember the postman very briefly. That
The
was that
post.
was a great character.
I don't think he really did too much, other
Right.
than every now and
Deliver the
then
mail.
he'd crack
Yeah.
something, a joke with the dad, I think, and then that'll be it.
Yeah. This is an open-ended question. We will get back to this at some point in the future. But the other question I have for you, Voodie or Rowbrazzle?
Voodie or Rauer Brazel?
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, Raoul Brazel is the furry, it is the quintessential furry uh, comic that basically started the furry fandom as we know it, because it was the furry fandom entirely alone in one book.
Hmm.
But Voodie was a combination of so many different underground artists, and it was the precursor to everything.
Hmm.
And like the cover of the very first issue of Voodie was like a calling card to people who loved funny animals, because that's what it called for. It
Hmm.
literally said, "This is what we're here for."
It's a Sophie's choice. I know. I am so sorry for
I
putting this
don't
quandary in front of you.
like, you got to understand. We talked about the history. We found some good pieces to put in the museum.
Hmm.
I didn't read all of these things all the way through.
Right.
Like, I know what I've looked at and what I've seen. Voodie was interesting, and at the time that it was released, it was very interesting.
Uh-huh.
I think the fact that it came so many years before, it was like 7 or 8 years before Rauer Brassel came on the
Hmm.
scene. Uh, and then it was actually the dissolution of Voodie that led into Rauer Brassel. I,
I think it's
I,
actually one of the covers in the Museum of Rob Brazel has someone like reading something while on the toilet, and in the toilet paper roll is the
yes,
Booty magazine. Right. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what that's a reference to. It's like Voodie's over, now we're here.
Hmm.
But also the we're here part comes with, like, that was a mixed zine, and there were so many other stories. We are a furry zine, a
Hmm.
furry fanzine.
Hmm.
So I feel obligated to say Rauer Brazel, but in my heart, I feel like Voodie, like, without Voodie, it wouldn't have gotten to that point.
Hmm.
Voodie was the one that brought everyone together, not Rauer Brazel. Rauer Brazel came later.
Hmm.
So Voodie started something, and I think that's worth mentioning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question. And this is actually a much nicer question than these other ones, I will say, but it is a kind of perennial. You know that you now that you've been on the podcast, now that you kind of see what it's about, getting into the fandom and hearing those unique stories. If you were to pick a guest for us to be here, of someone to come on and share
Ooh.
their story, is there anyone that you would recommend Punk and I reach out to?
Paco, 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 Paco Panda.
Not didn't even pause for a
Yeah.
second. I mean, absolutely, unquestionably, it is when you think of furry art, that is effectively what you're thinking of for the most part. Like, if I'm not,
Hmm.
like the default.
I I met him in Megaplex. It was so great to meet him. I remembered when I made the museum. Like, I
Hmm.
started off making the museum with the goal in mind of, oh my God, I want Paco in here. But he's such a good artist. He's such a talented artist. There's no way. Like, I'm just a nobody on VR making a museum. And I deliberately made the entire rest of the museum and saved him for like one of the very final last people. And then I was so nervous to reach out to him. And then I sent him all of these beautiful pictures of the museum, hoping that he would understand that I would actually be, a good person to host his art. And his response was like, I don't think my art is good enough for this place.
Oh my God,
Damn.
my my
Damn.
God.
And then he saw the display and he was floored. Uh,
Oh,
Oh.
that's
oh
incredible.
gosh.
Well, all I
Like,
could say. Oh, go. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm just, yeah, there's a million amazing artists out there. There's so much people that I think deserve to have their stories heard. Ash Coyote, absolutely amazing person. Rod Vincent Mink O'Reilly, who was Silas's partner of 42 years, is still
Hmm.
alive. So before you guys are done, make sure you get him here. Uh, who else? Who else? I think, oh gosh, well, I think those are the big ones for me.
Well, that is a fantastic list. We have the list. We have the list, and we are always writing
Hmm.
down. But before anything else, before we wrap up this episode, and I'll say it again, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you so
Oh,
much
you're
for sharing your
welcome.
story. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for staying for the after hours episode we're about to record in a bit, but most critically, as someone who Punk took to the museum to show, who let me cross the Rainbow Bridge by myself and experience
Oh,
that, and who I was able to do for someone else just literally an hour before we recorded this episode. Uh,
oh,
Truly, thank you for everything. I appreciate
you're welcome.
it. Yeah.
Indeed.
I tried.
And you tried, you won, you succeeded. And if you are listening, do us a favor and please try and win yourself. Do us the kindest of favors. Leave us a review on wherever you're listening to this, on the Spotify, on the YouTube, on the whatever. Leave a comment. We love reading it. We truly do.
Mm.
I'm definitely not a Popufur podcast at gmail.com if you ever want to get a hold of us. But most critically, keep on listening because, you know what, we'll be around for a little bit longer. Thank you so much, everyone. We will talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Thanks and bye.
Bye.